Good evening. I'm Noelle Jefferson, producer of As of Right, and with me is Senator Daniel Squadron. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. There's another interest that I have in my community, actually, and it's the World Trade Center. I've not been able to sleep for nights thinking that it's going to be 2037 before the last tower is built. How could that be? How could that be when monies were put aside? The Port Authority took out $2.75 billion from the insurance fund to pay Silverstein to complete it. Now, if they completed 7 World Trade Center in 4 years, why is it going to take 20-some odd years more to complete the other 2 towers?
Right. Well, the fact is it can't. The fact is, whatever we build now, we have to build now, and we have to get done. I would like to see as much built as possible, by the current sort of plan for the completion date of One World Trade, of the memorial, of the Vehicle Security Center. I'd like to see that entire package completed in the next few years,
well, if
and by a date certain. And in order to do that, we need to figure out what we can build now. We need to be moving on it now, and we need to stick to those deadlines. And that's true of the Port Authority, for certain, which has slipped too many times. It's also true of Silverstein Properties. And we've got to come together. Right now, there's a little bit of a freeze on. By the way, if this short freeze leads to the ability for the Port and for Silverstein to come together, that would be a wonderful thing. Because they tried, and it was like they weren't able. That would be a wonderful thing. Because they tried, and it was like they weren't able to even agree on the facts on the ground.
But Mayor Bloomberg and Shelley Silver are both working with them, and those are 2 spokesmen who
That's
I would
exactly
think.
right. And in fact, one reason that I feel like, if we can get an answer from the arbitrator very quickly, it's got to be very quickly.
Yes.
On some of these facts, is you have some very talented negotiators, some very forceful folks, both in the Speaker and in the Mayor, and the Governor was involved. And in fact, the governors of both New York and New Jersey.
Definitely.
And Chris Ward, the head of the Port Authority, who I like very much, and Larry Silverstein, who I believe does want to get things built. And you had that combination, and you couldn't get things done. I think one reason is because, some were saying gravity goes left, and some were saying gravity goes right, and no one could agree. Look, gravity goes down at 9.8, meters squared, and that's it.
But with all these false starts
right.
and years of deliberation, do you think that the Port Authority will be able to deliver on time?
I think that we need, and it's got to be everyone, the city, the state, the port, Silverstein, we need to all agree, this is what we're going to build, and we're going to build it by this date. And do I believe that's possible? I do believe that's possible. I think that it's going to take enormous resources and enormous focus. The fact is, I think certainly we could be doing better than we are right now. Certainly this conflagration between Silverstein and the port is a real problem.
Do you think that the Port Authority should wait until 2037 to complete it?
Of course not.
Okay. Now, based on their history, 4 years to construct 7 World Trade Center, which is gorgeous. It's lovely. 4 years, from May to May, 4 years later, completed, filled.
Well, Larry Silverstein built 7
Exactly.
World Trade.
So why can't they just give them the money from the insurance fund that they've already procured?
Well, there's the additional backstop money that the port doesn't need to spend, but it would need to, or the last request was that the Port Authority put that money in as a backstop. And the Port Authority basically disputed some of the facts on the ground and Silverstein Properties, and it is an arbitration now. The first phase of the arbitration, you never want to be in arbitration, you want to be moving quickly. The first phase of the arbitration will hopefully render a decision quickly. I am pushing all the parties to get to the first phase decision quickly, which basically says, look, who's responsible here, right? Who's made mistakes at this point? Who's broken the agreements up to this point? No penalties yet, but here's what happened. Now fix it, and fix it quickly. If we can get there in the next few, literally weeks, not months, if we can get there, then hopefully we can get to building, knowing exactly what we're building. Hopefully, I would like to see everything built, if that's at all possible. If it's not, then let's all agree on that. Let's agree what will get built, the date certain it'll get done by, and then focus all of our resources together on getting it done.
Well, I understand that the port is focusing on the economy today, and they don't believe that with the economy today, it's wise to build something that perhaps they can't lease.
Right. Well,
And therefore it'll be standing. However,
I'm more bullish on Lower Manhattan than the Port Authority.
In addition to that, Larry Silverstein has said that 30,000 jobs will be created if they continue to work on it, if the construction goes on. So if you have 30,000 jobs, then won't that buffer some of the expense that the port is thinking that perhaps they won't have to make this successful?
Well, that's the reason that I'd like to see as much of it built as possible. The fact is, at the end of the day, you'll have 10 million square feet there if we build everything. 10 million square feet needs of Class A, great Class A, modern office space, needs to be good enough for Lower Manhattan. I know it will be. We are continuing to grow in every way, continuing to thrive. Obviously, the last year has been a tough one, but the future of Lower Manhattan is not we shrivel or we stop having great office space or we stop building new buildings. It can't be.
No, because every forecast that I've heard is that we're in a recession, that within 5 years the economy will be on an upswing.
Right.
Now, if we're in a recession, and that is true, that in 5 years we'll have an upswing, then I think we should go ahead. And if it's not true, if they feel that it's going to be 2027 before they can even start building the third tower, then we're not really in a recession, we're in a depression.
And that theory means Lower Manhattan, the financial district and the areas around it, won't need new Class A office space for 18 years.
That's right.
And I don't believe that's the case.
I
I don't
don't
believe
agree.
that can be the case.
No.
We need to ensure that it does.
All right, one more topic because we're running short of time.
All right.
And that next topic, which is going to be the last one, and I know we can spend a lot of time on that, and that's mayoral control of the schools.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who believe that mayoral control is not the way, and we have 1 minute for you to tell me why.
Wow, 1 minute. Talk about urban public education in a 1.1 million school system, 1.1 million student school system in 1 minute.
Yes.
I can't do that, but I can say this. I think mayoral control does make sense, but there's no question that it needs to come with transparency, with parental and community input. Look, good schools are built out of having great teachers and engaged parents. We know that.
How many parents are engaged? I think that's the major problem, and I think that is also one of the problems that the CECs feel could be enhanced if they had more opportunity and more word.
And I agree with that, and I actually believe that the bill that we passed that reauthorized mayoral control also improved it. And it improved it by having a much stronger requirements on local superintendents, much stronger role for CECs and parents more generally, but especially CECs. The relationship between superintendents and CECs is strengthened. Those are all really good things. And the transparency at the top level, both sort of the PEP is rationalized, is clarified. It's not an independent body particularly, but what it is it's part of delay and transparency. And the Independent Budget Office for the first time has full access to all the data. The New York City Comptroller has much more access, much clearer access, much more clearly sort of the same role as a city agency. Those improvements were critical, but we needed them without taking away the mayor's ability.
Senator Squadron, yes. I'm going to cut here.
Fair enough.
Because I think this is a topic that we really need to spend more time on.
I agree.
Senator Daniel Squadron.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Really great to be here.
Thank you so much. And thank you, MNN, for allowing us to air this show.